Yeah.
Tracy, how are you? Good. Taking too much of your room here? Could turn that fan off if they needed to. Hey, Shelley, will you show Marilyn how to turn the speakers on and I don't know. I've never done it. Jim will probably know. Jim always. Everybody's here. Sit down. We'll get a couple of chairs over here. It's been a long time since we've had a full board meeting. He wants to sit right where Kathy is. He wants to sit right next to her. But we know there's a closed session to begin with.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order tonight. And before we get started, I'd like to thank the previous board, the department heads, and all the contractors that showed up to our last meeting to be introduced to all of us. I find it very helpful, and thank you for taking the time. I'm going to try to do my best tonight running this meeting. My training doesn't start till next week, so let's all see how this turns out. So let me see, call to order, which we've done. So can we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Shelley, can you take care?
I have to get used to saying new names. Chick. Here. Braun. Here. Engstrom. Here. Manning. Here. Otto. Here. Thomas.
Here.
Docket is absent with notice.
So moving on to the consent agenda, I move to adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Those in favor? Aye. Those who oppose? Okay. Motion passes. I didn't hear enough ayes. Okay, moving on to the next item. We need to adopt the balance of the agenda, but we need to add some items this evening. I would like to add, possibly as 9A, Tracy Thomas's resignation from the Public Planning Commission. I would also like to add board rep appointments to the Planning Commission and the ZBA. I figured 10A would be a good spot for that. Shelley, I believe you had something to add?
I would just like to move number 8 up to number 1 so that Mr. Pfeffer isn't sitting with us all evening.
Would you like to just switch the item numbers then?
Yeah, we could just move it on down.
Okay. Anyone else?
Item number 13, I did not send that in. That might be Mrs. Otto's.
Oh, 13 agenda item is from Otto instead of Check.
Oh,
Is
sorry.
that correct, Jake? Yes, it is.
Anything else? All right.
Move to adopt the agenda as amended.
Support.
Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion passes. Great. Okay, next order, call to public. Is there anyone that would like to come up and speak?
My name is Lori Rogers. I live at 7044 Whitmore Lake Road in Whitmore Lake, Northfield Township. I just want to congratulate all of you on being the successful vote getters and embarking on this new responsibility. It's not one, many of us are not envious of you. But it's a new day, and obviously things can go lots of different ways. I want to ask you, there are a couple items on the agenda, some are not, but I want to ask you to take some time to step back and thoughtfully reconsider 2 actions that were taken by the previous board, one of which was to reduce the salaries for the elected officials. I can't speak, and I don't know what was in the minds of the people who proposed it and who supported it. I do know that from someone sitting on the outside watching the meetings at home, it appeared that a lot of it stemmed from conflicts and an inability to resolve conflicts between some of the trustees and the previous supervisor. I don't attribute or lay responsibility for that conflict at any one particular person's feet, but it did have the appearance of being motivated by things other than what was perhaps in the best interest of the township. Even if it was well-intentioned, I'm not aware of any economic reason. There may be. Maybe the budget is such that we are now really in some deep financial trouble, but that didn't appear clear from the previous discussions. And I'm concerned about the fact that what is now the salary is such that we can't really expect the job to get done in the amount of time that the elected officials may be able to put into that. I don't know that there was a time and efficiency study beforehand, but usually that kind of decision is made only after sort of a review of how much time it takes to get the job done and whether or not one can afford to cut back on that time. The second thing is the appointment of a township manager. Again, I think it struck those of us on the outside as, again, a way of resolving conflict. And I think that when we vote for a supervisor, we're voting for someone who we expect to be able to do that job and to do it on a relatively full-time basis, not to have a township manager. So I just want to ask you to think about that and think about whether or not those are things that this board might want to take another look at and decide whether or not it wants to do it differently. Thank you.
Sam Quinto, 9876 Main Street. I too would like to congratulate you, and I know that everyone that is here as a township trustee wants to do the best to serve this township, and I commend you for that. I would like to address a couple items on the agenda. Consider the policy disallowing electronic devices at board table. Just to kind of give some input into that, I know, as an example, the school board utilizes all laptops at their meetings, and it is a great way for them to reference their board packet, continuously stay organized very well. I myself used it to reference ACTS, the MTA site, many times when I was there at the board table. So as part of your discussion, just keep in mind that we are in the 21st century, in that it is very helpful to utilize the electronic tools that are at your disposal when you are there, just to give you that input. Consider the rehire of Dennis Gabriel as labor attorney. I would give you advice from being on the past board that there were reasons why we recommended to stop utilizing the services of that gentleman. I would ask you to consult Paul Burns and see if he would like to recommend a possibly different attorney that is close by in the area for him to work with. Mr. Dockett definitely has a lot of facts that he can share with you as a fellow board member as to why that individual's services were stopped to be utilized by the township. The next item is the discussion of hiring Howard Fink as township manager. I do commend you for addressing this. The people did speak when they did vote in the primary. The administrator that was running stated that that person was going to be a full-time individual, and the people voted not for that type of administration by voting for a different type of person in that position. And so I do commend you that it is on your docket to address and to look at and to move forward with. And I am here representing the Michigan Pond Hockey Classic, so that if you have any questions, I will be in the audience for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mary Devlin, 9211 Brookside. I believe that you ran your campaigns with a desire to move this township forward. As part of that process, I see on tonight's agenda that one of the items is appointing Howard Fink as Northfield Township Manager. Appointing a township manager is long overdue. Howard Fink as Township Manager is one of the most positive decisions you will have before you for some time. During his presentation in August, he stated that he will work with not only the board, but the township employees and residents as well. Prior to his presentation, he cared enough to familiarize himself with the area, went over past minutes, and even watched part of the meeting prior to the presentation. During his time in Maryville over the past few years, he has saved them considerable amounts of money. That should have put a smile on all of your faces, while at the same time increasing sources of revenue. In addition to everything I just mentioned, there are family ties here in Michigan. I just want to say that many of us feel that he is a person that can energize this community and, with the help of this board, dispel the negative image of our township into its success. It's time for a positive new chapter to begin, and you can make it happen. On another subject, I would like to make everyone aware that this Sunday from 2 to 3 p.m., Santa will be visiting Peaberry Bean and Beats on Barker Road next to Marco's Pizza. So come join the fun along with visiting Santa, singing carols, and sampling some tasty treats. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good
evening. Mark Stanlicho, 8352 Kearney Road. First of all, congratulations on your first meeting. You're starting an adventure, and I think it will be quite challenging for all of you. So even though sitting there before, glad to give up so I can go home later. So two things on the agenda that I want to make comments about. First of all, the hiring of a township manager. I think it's the most important thing you're taking on tonight, and I encourage all of you to consider voting for that. For the resident that came up and spoke earlier about issues or concerns about what happened with the prior board, nobody ever spoke out to us to ask us individually why things were happening, how they happened, and what was going on. I'm sure some of you that have been in the township office already can already see the tension that's going on in the township offices. I believe that since you're now all trustees, if you spend any time with the people that are in the offices, you're going to end up seeing they need some oversight, they need some guidance, and they're not getting that. There is nobody currently right now to represent you as the board running the township in the township offices. It's pretty much a free-for-all. There is no responsibility there. And besides the clerk that takes care of the deputies or their individual deputies, they have no responsibility to anybody else individually in the township office, and that's a fact. Putting in Mr. Fink as a township manager, I think it's going to end up working out fantastic if you do this and make this happen tonight, or at least start the process to make that happen. You're going to see it's going to make your job as trustees much easier. It's going to be a great thing to have somebody that's professional, that's going to be able to go out, find information for you so you can make the best decisions. As you all know, you all have individual jobs. It is going to be putting in a lot of time and effort on your own time to do a lot of research. It would be really nice to have a professional that can actually do that job for you. Mr. Wagner's done a fantastic job as interim township manager, but he wears a lot of hats, and he's only touched very little on the responsibilities of township manager and the good things that a township manager could do for this community. Economic development, the township manager could be directed to go after economic development by contacting businesses and try and solicit and sell the township for the community. I really, really highly consider and recommend that you hire Mr. Fink and make that motion happen tonight. The other thing is, just like Mr. Iaquinto, Mr. Gabriel, that was the township labor attorney, there are specific reasons why it is that we took the action we did. I'm not going to go into those in public here. I would be happy to discuss those with you individually, in private. As I said, I do not believe he's the best person to be representing Northfield Township as a labor attorney. I would recommend that you ask your general counsel for somebody that they can work with that's local to the area, and or I would end up looking to put this out for bids. We spend a lot of money. It was a no bid issue, and I think we can end up doing better, frankly. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you.
Good evening. Ken Dignan, 9210 Hillcrest Drive. Just two items on the agenda I wanted to address. One, ZBA report. If you guys do have a question about the action the ZBA took, I'm here. I'm happy to answer that. I know that you don't have a board member that was present at the meeting. Secondly, item number 2 on the agenda about electronic devices. Just to give you a little feedback, I mean, I find it critical for my board to have those electronic devices at the table. A lot of times a question may come up that needs to be researched quickly. That's how I use my board packet. That's the way I use the township ordinance book. I can search it instantly. I can get the result instantly. It's just something that I think we should be moving more towards using electronic devices and away from paper and printing all of this stuff up. I think it gives you easier and quicker access to information. Sometimes, even I have an electronic copy of Robert's Rules of Order. If you need to find something, you can find it rather quickly that way. I think that you need to kind of consider moving forward whether or not that's really something that should be considered, whether you would really want to disallow the use of modern technology. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gary Wellings, 341 Lillian. I'm a little out of breath, I had to run. Nobody opens the back door down here. It's not unlocked. I don't know if you used to do that, but it's not unlocked anymore. Okay, anyways, thank you all and congratulations to each of you for running and taking these dirty jobs. So I'm glad that you all did. I did want to stop down, and I ran down here when I heard the previous board had a lot of ugliness and belabored the point of a township manager. That man right there shows you how good a job can be done in this township when you have someone dedicated to doing it. He's not going to be here forever. He needs to be replaced. The homework's been done. And I'm assuming each of you coming on board now did your homework, watched the interviews on tape of the people that were interviewed. That young man there was fabulous. He's got the credentials to run this township. The homework's been done. I'd hate to see this board dissolve into the same argumentative paralysis of analysis that the last board ran into. Brighton Township just did the same thing. When you reach $40 million as a corporation, which is what we are, put somebody with credentials, put somebody with the experience, the knowledge. It's a popularity contest is no way to run a $40 million entity. Put somebody in here and do it quickly. Don't wait. You have all the information. You've had it for months now, or the other board did. You've had it. You watched. Most of you were watching at home. If you weren't here actively talking about it, just get it done. The budget's done. We know it's not going to cost anything. Worst case scenario, 2 years or 4 years, whatever contract you decide to give the man, you can revisit it. And then you can go back and try doing things the old-fashioned way. But it's time to move to a professional township. We deserve it. I, as a taxpayer, deserve it, and so do the rest of us. Please give this opportunity the chance, move forward, and don't take 3 months, 6 months, because he may not be around for 6 months. Move as quickly as possible, be determined, and just get it done, please. That's what I'm asking you. This last election showed that each and every one of you who supported this and faced competition got elected because you publicly stated you were for it. So just move forward. You got elected. The people did have a voice. The people did have a say. They voted for you knowing that the biggest issue in this election was a township manager. They voted for you because you said you were for it. Please just follow through and let's get this done. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Thank you for taking the time to come to the meeting. Our next order of business is reports. Bill, would you like to start with your report?
Yes, thank you. The Northfield Township Fire Department responded to 48 requests for service in November of 2012. This is quite a decrease compared to November 2011 when we responded to 68, but overall for the year we're on the exact same pace within 10 calls of last year. Of the requests for service, 7 of them were motor vehicle accidents, with 1 being a pin-in crash. 7 of the requests were fire-related calls, 27 were medical emergency calls, 2 hazardous condition calls, 2 public assist calls. Of the fire calls, 2 were fire alarms, 2 were grass fires, and 3 were structure fires. There was a working structure fire within the township, and we assisted Green Oak Township on a working structure fire. Of the responses for the month, 63% were in the Hamlet area, 36% were in the rural area of the township, with the remaining being mutual aid. Mutual aid calls for the month, we assisted other agencies 1 time and received assistance 3 times. The average response time for the month was 5 minutes and 37 seconds. And I spoke of the structure fire within the township. It was in Northfield Estates. It actually started with the heater of a fish tank, and when the fish tank melted, it put the fire out. So put most of the fire out. As for fire department communications, I think I only need 1 course of action there, number 4 being the acceptance of the resignation of Captain Tynan. unless anybody has any questions.
I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of Captain Jay Kiney with regret.
I'll second it.
Manning moved, Otto supported. Motion passes. Oh. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
I don't know if there's any other questions for the fire department. If not, I'll move to the township manager report. In the township manager report, the first item, the non-motorized path, I believe we'll be discussing that in closed session, so we can discuss that there. The 75 Barker Road underground storage tank, I actually met with the environmental company today, and when we did additional testing on the soil, we did find some contamination. What I am short on, though, is details on options that we have to either go forward with the cleanup of that or not. And I don't want to go into too many details. The way he made it sound was it's really not that big of a deal, but it is contaminated. And I'm not sure if Mr. Boss had any of did he call you back? No, okay. We were hoping to get a phone call with some additional costs of additional services. We should have everything for the next board meeting, and it's nothing that needs to be addressed right away. So we should have a written report from the environmental company and some options of what next steps we may want to take.
Bill, do we know what the contaminants were?
It was all related to diesel fuel or heating fuel.
Okay.
And that while above some levels that require reporting, it's really, really small. It's not a big deal. They really wanted to make us known that. So the sewage backup in the public safety building, the work has now all been completed as far as the painting, carpeting, that kind of stuff. I have not received the final bill for it yet, but it will be under the $25,000 that our insurance covers. So, and then there is some discussion or some on the pond hockey civic event permit. When we get to that, we can cover that, unless anybody has any other questions on the manager's report. Okay.
Lieutenant Green?
The Northfield Township Police Department responded to 555 complaints during the month of November 2012 and handled 5 mutual aid responses inside the township and 2 outside the township. Of the total complaints answered, 69% of them were in the Hamlet area and 31% were handled throughout the rest of the township. The average response time on calls for service was 5.09 minutes. Officers generated a total of 20 arrests and worked a total of 1,906.25 hours. And then I've also attached an itemized listing of monthly activities if you have any questions.
Does anyone have any questions? Thank you. Next order of business, Senior Center. Sue, please.
The only thing I wanted to add to to my report is Bill and I spoke about, I did not get the grant, and Bill and I spoke briefly about painting and putting flooring in the other side of where Human Services was, and I guess that's something we need to know whether or not we can go forward with that, and do we need quotes, how many quotes, and all that kind of stuff. So I guess that's the only thing we need to get some direction on.
being new to all of this, I'm not sure what direction to take with that.
Well, when Bill and I spoke, he had the two gentlemen that were doing the work here come down, and I only got one quote back from the painter. I did not get the quote back from the carpeting gentleman yet.
Oh, he told me yesterday he was going to stop down and see you. Yesterday.
Well,
I actually have another option for the carpet, though.
Okay.
Remember, we discussed how they take it out of the, after the
Auto show?
auto show? Something like that, so.
Is there a list of things that you are requiring or needing?
Well, when Human Services moved out, the place is in it needs repair. It is a township building, and I think it needs to, before it gets, deteriorates anymore, and we'd like to utilize the space. We are utilizing it now in the condition that it's in, but, it's not very favorable. And, I put fabric on the walls to cover up the holes, and, I got creative with it, but, that's not gonna, be very attractive, I guess, or if you will. But the carpeting and flooring needs to be replaced on that side of the building. So I don't know. Yeah, I don't know which direction the board wants to take.
My thought
on
was, and it does, the flooring in there is really, really poor shape. There's a lot of traffic in and out of there when Human Services was in there. But until we really know what it's going to cost, so I would hope by the next board meeting you would have at least one quote to get an idea of what it might cost to replace flooring and/or carpeting and have that side painted. I mean, that was my thought anyhow, until we know what it's going to cost.
Right.
Well, since Bill and I talked, it's only been a week or so, and I haven't had enough time to, get quotes back or anything from the two gentlemen that we talked about. So hopefully by the next meeting we could.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Do we usually get at least 2 or 3 quotes on those things?
I wouldn't suggest actually going forward until you do get 2 or 3 quotes, but if we get at least one quote, we have an idea, a ballpark of how much it is we're dealing with.
Okay, yeah, that was what I was going to suggest, is that we should at least have 3 quotes.
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting we take one quote and
Okay.
then make a decision. I was suggesting at least then we have an idea of kind
Something
of what
to talk about.
ballpark we're
Right.
working in.
Well, the quote that I had, for the grant, it was going to take the $20,000, but that was for the entire building, for painting and flooring in the entire building, not just Human Services side.
Does the whole building need attention?
Well, eventually I don't know what happened to the flooring. I had 3 different gentlemen come out and take a look at the floor in the senior center that we use right now, and they all said that something went wrong with the installation or something. That's what they all agreed on, that the installation of the flooring was put in improperly right from the beginning. Because you can just take your finger and flip all the tile up, just about any tile in that building. It's not laid properly.
Okay.
So
Could we do the quotes in 2 different manners? One with just that one area and one
Yes.
with both?
Yep. Well,
Okay.
the quote that I got, for the flooring, when I did the grant, it came to $19,000 for the
Okay.
flooring in the entire building. So, I mean, at least you know that. But that was the whole building, yes.
And Sue, who was the grant through?
It was the McCully Grant Fund. I don't have the information in front of me right now, but it was
That's good enough.
McCully Trust, I think it was
Okay.
called, yeah.
Well, if you wouldn't mind getting together some estimates, or at least one, so we can maybe talk about it further at the next meeting.
Okay,
Sounds good?
all right.
Anyone else on that? Okay. Next is Tim from the wastewater treatment plant.
I just have one item for this evening. It's regarding sewer main line on Kenton Drive in Green Oak Township. There's a section of line that is about 250 feet between manholes. Approximately 190 feet of that has settled or dipped, and so it's holding water. We've already had to reroute one homeowner's line because it was holding and he couldn't use his line at all. It would plug up on him. So we got a couple quotes to actually redo this line. We tried getting 3 or 4 quotes. One company that was big in this is out of business. A couple of the other companies did not want to do this at all, didn't want the job. Fonson Construction, Bob Myers Construction out of Brighton, they're both very reputable companies. Fonson is very big, very good at what they do. This is what they do. They gave us a quote of $16,070 to run basically new line between the manholes, not just the 150 or 190 feet that is dipped. But I would like to seek the board's permission to spend no more than $20,000 for this repair. There seems like there's always some things that come up that you don't expect, whether you need more gravel to bed underneath the pipe or on top of the road if the road commission decides they want more than what's currently there. And this will also take a budget amendment. This is a repair that wasn't planned for. Obviously, it's not something that we anticipated. We do have the money in the savings account for this, but like I said, it's not something that was part of the budget. So at some time, we will want to address that if the board decides to go ahead with this repair. So again, I guess my request is if the board would see to it, or would like to grant us to spend no more than $20,000 at this time for this repair.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract with Fonson Construction for not to exceed amount of $20,000 to repair the sewer line on Kenton Drive.
Second. We have a motion on the table to approve the sewer line. All in favor?
Who's the support?
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry. Discussion?
This is someone that you've worked with before?
We have not personally, but everyone around Brighton, all over the area, has worked with Fonson Construction.
Okay, and you're comfortable with the recommendations?
Very, very comfortable.
Anyone else? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. On to our next item, excuse me, is the DDA report. At this time, there is nothing to discuss on the DDA. Would you consider leaving it off the agenda until the DDA does have items to be talked about? Okay. The ZBA report. Ken, is there anything that you'd like to share with us?
The ZBA did meet last month. We took up the issue, an issue from Regal Recycling on Whitmore Lake Road. They had come before us to address their operations and consider whether or not their operations that they had performed there and some of the changes that they had made on the property were a expansion of a nonconformity or a substitution of a nonconformity. And the board came to the unanimous decision that the operations of what they were doing there was merely a substitution of the type of recycling they were doing previously. And the buildings themselves, they had taken down some pretty dilapidated structures and dangerous structures, to be quite honest, and some temporary structures that were very non-conforming, and put up a new building. When we looked at the square footage offsets for that, we determined that it was also a substitution of square footage, not an expansion. So Regal will now be going before the Planning Commission for whatever else they plan to do. I mean, we didn't address anything beyond that, but we just looked at what they were doing and whether or not it was an expansion or substitution, and felt it was a substitution on both. So, and that's all.
Thank you. I am not aware of a Planning Commission report that's available. Is there? Okay. Then, moving on to our next order of business. The closed session.
I I will make a motion to move to closed session for confidential privileged communication with our township attorneys.
Support.
Did you do a roll call for that? Okay.
See if there's any discussion.
Any discussion?
Yes.
And next is the roll call.
Chick?
Yes.
Braun?
Yes.
Engstrom?
Yes.
Manning, yes. Otto?
Yes.
Thomas?
Yes.
Okay, we'll be back. Thank you.
Does anybody have a problem with the department heads? They don't have anything on the agenda.
Nothing on this that you guys need to be here for.
God, I might be able to extend your cord. I forgot to bring it home. Reaching over. I can smell it. I'm sure personal space. Yeah. You got my email then? I did. Is that one about to run out or is it? No, it's where we do it every year. Okay, mine's about to run out in 30 days, so no, just, I'll bring a copy of it. Okay. It's an endpoint license. Okay, free. Yes, yeah, so it'll automatically just update. Okay. It's township. I didn't know if it was just good for 10 computers or how many years. Yeah, it's good. You don't hear it. See, do you pay for it or does the township? Yeah, the township. And we talked about it, guys, like the others. So how can we? Yes, it's an open license. How can we pay for our portion of it? Extra year. That works. $20,000. 9:30, 10, 12.
It's okay.
Sorry, I should have known.
Yes, you should. I know.
Somebody said something. People put it in for the party Friday. McDonald's.
Where do you want to do it?
Chelsea's going to give me one.
I didn't hear you. I was in the deep area.
I get to go home to my wife. She's sick.
Okay. You want to call that?
Went through my grandkids and other ones, and now she's got the nasty. I'm sorry.
You do?
No, I don't get. I've never gotten a phone. I know. Things knock on wood.
Email or call?
See you later.
I got my phone on vibrate, so it's okay, that's.
I don't believe you. I'm not going to say it.
It's okay. Very good.
Nice to meet you.
All right, see you there. Thanks. Most days, talked about it an hour ago. That's all right. I didn't know those letters. You doing okay?
Hey, Mike, I'm on a break from a meeting, and I had my phone turned down, and I might run out of phone power. But I saw that you called. Okay, great. Who is that? Well, it's my neighbor across the street, you know, has 4 steps up to her second level, and she really can't do an 8-inch, 6 to 8-inch step anymore. So I was thinking if they built out like a ramp with 3-inch steps, that would probably be better. So. What's the last name? Okay. Okay. Okay, I'll probably have to call tomorrow because I really think my phone's going to run out of power here. Anyway. Okay, great. So, what do I owe you? You got to bill me. Well, okay, but I don't want to, you know, leave you out there hanging. Okay. All right. Yeah, I probably wouldn't be. Okay. All right. You too. Bye-bye. Thanks.
check these out before you open the lights. Oh, with the Lord. I don't want to say no ice. There's no ice on the walking surfaces. I remember. I fell last year, not my stuff. The videos were perfect.
I will make a motion to return to open session.
Do I say those in favor, those opposed? Those in favor? Aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Okay. On to our next item. And before we get started, I just want to clarify that the public input regarding agenda items are to be addressed during the call of public, the two opportunities at the beginning and after, okay? First item, Jackie Otto, you have on here, consider reinstating Robert's rules as guidelines.
Now that we're back, all my notes and everything are all messed up, so just bear with me for a moment.
Madam Chair, didn't we invert the order?
Oh, you're right, I'm sorry.
That's probably why I didn't have it in order anymore.
Number 8 had moved to number 1, and that is consider renewal of auditor contract.
Okay, I would like to, actually, I'll just make a motion to accept the 3-year contract from Pfeffer, Hannaford, and Palka for fiscal years 2013, 14, and 15.
I'll second it.
I do want to make a comment that the prices for the next 3 years are the same as we've had the previous 3 years. So, and I do also just want to say that Pfeffer Hannaford has been with the township for 20 years, at least. So they know us very well. So it's just an easy audit when they know what they're familiar with us. So.
Did we get a second on that?
I did.
Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. On to number 2. Consider the
Thank you.
Okay. On to item number 2, consider policy disallowing electronic devices at board table. Janet, please.
Yeah, I brought this up as an option for the board to consider, simply because I understand the comments about technology and moving ahead, but as we know, a lot of our technology has not necessarily kept up with our laws and regulations. Section 16202 of the Open Meetings Act states that every portion of every meeting of the commission shall be open to the public observation unless closed to the public pursuant to provision of Section 16203, which I interpret, and I think most people interpret, that if there's any communication going on between board members or the audience and the board members or the viewing audience and the board members, that it should all be in the public eye. If you have a cell phone that you're looking at, you're getting a text from someone, or you're texting out, or an iPad, that is not in the public eye. I bring this, excuse me, I have a little cough, in the interest of transparency for the board and for discussion, for them to consider.
Okay.
So in regards to the Freedom of Information Act, Janet, I mean, yeah, the Freedom of Information Act for the meetings. The cell phones that they would have on the table, would that be covered under the Freedom of Information Act?
You mean
If
Open
somebody-
Meetings Act?
Open Meetings Act,
Yeah.
if somebody asked to have a record of what was said or put on that phone?
Everybody's looking at me.
Well, I'm even,
My understanding of the Open Meetings Act is that if you're, communication that has to do with what's being discussed at the meeting should be in the open for everyone to see, for the public to be able to see. And so I do think that communication to a sitting board member from outside of the meeting that's concerning topics being discussed, that might be a violation of the Open Meetings Act. I kind of would like to shift the discussion to, I just don't think it looks real good.
Right. It's a
And I don't mean that we have to be babysat or anything like that. You know, I'm presuming that if I'm, you know, if I'm operating my cell phone, I'm not checking sports scores or doing something silly like that at a meeting. I just think that for people in the audience and for the people at home, it looks as though you're not paying full attention to what's going on.
And you're not present.
And you're not, yeah.
You're not present at what's going on at the meeting.
So I don't really feel strongly about a policy one way or the other, but I can guarantee that you won't see my cell phone, regardless of what we decide, you won't see my cell phone up here and me looking at it. Unless, if there is an advantage to be gained, you know, if there's something that we would want to look up kind of quickly, like something that Sam was talking about, then you just, you know, you make it known that, yeah, I'm gonna check that on my phone, and everybody understands that that's what you're doing, that's all.
And I agree with you 100%. You'll never see my phone out on this table.
Right.
But like, do we really need a policy, or that we just kind of, you know, gonna go along with the idea that, you know, we're professionals and we'll be paying our full attention to the meeting versus our cell phone, or text messages, or communications outside of?
I'm sorry. The reason I brought it up is because I did a lot of research on this, and it is not only becoming a local issue, it's become a state issue and a national issue, and there are a lot of communities and school boards that are banning the use of cell phones or iPads or laptops at these meetings for simply that reason, because there have been violations, and there have been lawsuits.
Right, yeah, I can understand the violations,
Yeah, I
but,
understand that, you know, it is an honor thing. This question has come up before, and it kind of died a couple of years ago. A totally a board decision. I personally would prefer something, a ban on the use, so that the residents know that we are not going to be doing that.
And I think policy, putting a policy in place, everybody is in agreement to it. You have a consensus, rather than if you just say yes and then it not happen. At least with a policy, everybody understands the policy. Everybody understands that it's a consensus.
Well, Jen, if you want to bring, oh, I'm sorry, Kathy, go ahead.
I was going to say, since we're all new and we don't really know exactly how people are going to act, that we put off making it a policy, you know, until we see some abuses, because it can always go back. Have you written up a policy?
I have a motion.
To make a motion? I just think until we see abuses, I think we can all just be in agreement, and we don't need to make it a policy, because we don't know yet.
The only, I understand what you're saying. The only issue is if when you see an abuse, then there's already conflict. So my whole point is to avoid the conflict.
Right.
I'd like to start off. Go ahead.
Personally, I don't want to police you guys.
Yeah, really.
I mean, that's not for me to do. I mean, we're all here to do the job.
Well, I think we'd like to start off on a really nice note with everyone here, knowing that, you know, the problems that the previous board had, but you know, if it has to be policy, you know, so be it, but I think that we could start off with, you know, on a friendly note that we're all professionals and nothing like this would go on, but I'm open, but, you know, I'd like to review the policy, or that have you prepared a policy, or just a motion to put a policy together?
You have to write a policy. You have to write an actual policy.
Right, because then this policy would also have to state that there is an opportunity for, you know, if we needed to reference something on on a phone, a tablet, whatever it so be, that there's a room for that.
So I know, because I haven't done this before you can make a motion, you have to have a policy in every instance.
Well, my understanding is we can make a motion to say, yes, you know, go ahead and maybe put a policy together that we can read and vote on. Yeah, I mean, I would imagine that, well, maybe Shelley, you could help out here. could you, a simple policy of no cell phones, but then we're not leaving the opportunity to use that phone or device to reference anything that we might need to. I think you're going after more just communication with texting,
Right, texting or
correct.
email.
We do not have to have the policy in place, but you're either making a motion to just ban them altogether, and it'll pass or not, or you're making a policy. If you're making a policy, it should be in front of us before we vote on it.
So I can make a motion to develop a policy?
You don't have to do that. I mean, I think the first direction we should be going is anyone even interested in you spending time on a policy? I hate to say, I personally don't believe that we need a policy. I don't think we need to be, I think that's more heavier than what we really need it to be. I kind of agree with everyone else. I do look at my phone periodically, but I'm usually looking at the time because that clock's not correct. I used to set it out here because, that's what I was doing, was I would just pick it up and look at it. But, like Marilyn said, it's up to the board. So, I mean, we may as well just start with a motion and we see where it goes, no matter what the motion may be. But like I said, I would not ever agree to a policy not having seen what that policy consists of.
Okay, let's do this then. I will put something together for the next meeting so we can look at it.
Okay.
Okay.
Great, thank you. On to the next item, number 3, the discussion of hiring Howard Fink as Township Manager. As we all know, Howard has been here before for previous interview, and he was nice enough to come in this evening to answer any questions that any of the new board might have of him. Howard, come on up.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And how about we can start at, the first end of the table here, and Janet, you have anything, questions or thoughts for Howard?
I don't really have any questions. When I asked you to come to the meeting, my intention was that you introduce yourself to the board, explain, if this is not an interview, explain what a township does, what you can do for the community, and let them know about you.
Sure. Well, my name is Howard Fink, and currently reside in Chicago, Illinois, work in a community called Maryville, Indiana, which is a town of about 36,000 people, roughly $7 million, $7.5 million budget, general fund. When you factor in TIFs and miscellaneous revenue and things that aren't outside the general fund, you're looking at more like a $15 million budget. I have a significant amount of experience and background in municipal management, not as many as some and more than others, if you will, but a broad base of experience in the department areas and all the various issues that you all encounter and will have to address as new board members. And I appreciate you having me. I'm here because obviously we're interested. My wife is in the audience as well. I don't know if you have any questions.
Any direct questions for him, Janet? No?
What, and you would
I'm sorry.
you would ask what would I be able to do
Yes.
for the township, and I appreciate that question. Sorry. I think that generally speaking, my approach and understanding of what a township manager is an individual who acts on your policy and helps you govern. I'm a big believer in I don't set the policy, I don't set the agenda. You set the policy, you set the agenda, and I implement it. And so, that's sort of a baseline perspective that I have. What I hope to do and what I hope to accomplish is give you as much advice and as much perspective and as much direction as I possibly can on the various issues that you're dealing with. So A possible, example of that would be if Mrs. Chick, came to me and said, I'd like you to research, the policy on electronic devices at a meeting. My position would be to do that research for you and to present you with some options that you might be able to review and look at in terms of what you think the policy ought to be, and then possibly give you a recommendation, a personal opinion, if you will, or what I believe would be, good government recommendation. And then that would be your decision on how to act. I believe that my job essentially is to help you guys enjoy your positions as trustees and as board members, to help you do your jobs better, more effectively, and hopefully I do that in a way that provides, good, valuable information. I'm a big believer. My position is not political. I don't want to get involved, and nor will I get involved in the politics at the local level. My position is to do what I think is in the best interest of the residents and the best interest of the community, and to give you the best possible advice I can. Hopefully, you guys will choose me, and I would do a good job for you in that regard. I certainly understand some of the, issues in the past, and I realize that there's been a lot of conflict. My position would be to move forward, frankly. My position would be to essentially put that behind us, move forward. I don't want to get into a position of taking sides or trying to figure out, what was correct and what was incorrect. Just try to move forward in terms of good governance. And hopefully I'll provide the best possible advice I can in the best direction to the board in helping you guys move forward. With that, if you have any questions for me, I didn't prepare anything for tonight, but if you have any questions for me, I'd be glad to answer any kind of direct questions on experience or anything that you have.
Kathy, do you have anything?
I do not.
Okay.
I watched the interview.
Huh?
I watched your interview.
Thank you.
I just have a few. You've seen the job description, correct? The job duties?
I have. I must admit that I'm not sure that I could remember all the points in it, but yes, I have read them.
Okay. When I look at what you currently do, a lot of the job duties that was given to the township manager are fairly mundane as far as what you're experienced with.
Administrative in nature.
Yes. How do you feel about that?
I think that I'm a manager, and I'm here to help provide you with direction on policy and help in that regard in implementing policy. I think that while I have no issues kind of getting down and dirty, and I do a lot of administrative work where I'm at, I think that there is obviously a division of resources and, administrative work. We should identify people, the folks in the office that should be doing the effective kind of administrative work. That being said, I'm not one to kind of shy away from the details. So there's a lot of administrative work I do in Maryville, but as a general kind of answer to your question, I do think that it's necessary to have, good office staff to make sure that the administrative processes are being effectively addressed. Without seeing one of the points, I don't know how I would respond directly, but generally that would be my thought process.
Okay. I just want to make sure you realize you're coming into an office where you will have no support staff.
And I understand that, and I think that that's actually something that probably does need to be addressed in the contract, because I think it's important to have proper support staff and proper administrative staffing. And I appreciate the question, because frankly, it's something that I've thought about a great deal. Whatever the decision has been from the past, that's not my policy. I'm here today to try to present myself as a candidate and help you all move forward. But I certainly understand and have thought about myself. Is there the appropriate level of support staff in place to effectively run the day-to-day operations of the township? And I think to some extent that probably does need to be addressed. And I have thought about that in terms of contracts, contract negotiations.
You have anything else, Shelley?
No.
Okay. Jackie, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I had a few. One thing that I really admired about the interview process was twofold. One, that you had economic development background, and that you also had grant development background, which was very key. I know that in this position that was not added on as part of the duties to this role, but I'm taking liberties. I see, like how Bill acted in the role, you are a person of many hats.
Mm-hmm.
And I see also that this position could also include being a face of our township, a face of grant development, and also a face of economic development. How do you, I guess there's not a question there, but other than, can you comment to that?
Sure. Grant development, I think, is the slightly more difficult question, actually, than the economic development piece. I think that grant development really has to be a sort of teamwork effort with all the departments. There needs to be a policy, a push, a culture of trying to find free money, trying to find available dollars out there. But it is done throughout various department areas. For example, the non-motorized path. From the perspective of the township, that would probably be upon myself to look at if there's any transportation dollars that are out there through the local, metropolitan planning organizations, or through the state, or through the feds. But when it comes to stuff with the senior center, or when it comes to any type of grant opportunities for the wastewater treatment plant, I would really ask that my department heads keep their eyes open for opportunities, and then we work together on making sure that we go after them. A lot of the money, I would think that a lot of the available dollars, the big available dollars, are going to be on the transportation side. Most of the transportation planning, most of the road work is obviously not done through the township, but the non-motorized path, those type of dollars that are available, green infrastructure dollars, those type of things, that would fall on me, and I would want to go out there and make sure that I find every available dollar, if you will. But I would also ask that my department heads do a good job of keeping out their eyes and ears for dollars as well. The police department, for example, a few years ago, there was the COPS grant. The COPS grant was designed in order to fund, police officers that were going to be laid off. Opportunity for money through the police department. I would ask the police department to look at those dollars. The fire department, there's opportunities for dollars for purchase of new equipment through fire grants. Again, contacting the state reps, contacting congressmen, trying to make sure that we have their support in going after those monies. Those are important. And so I would make sure that, again, all the departments are on board with looking at where the available dollars are and that we're going after them. For economic development, I currently am the economic development practitioner in the town of Maryville. I used to be the community development director, and in order to save money, they essentially, when I was promoted to town administrator, I kept doing that job. So I'm pretty comfortable doing both positions. I am the face of Maryville when a new development comes in. So if a new company wants to come into our community, I walk them through the process, make sure that we welcome them with open arms. I'm also the one that makes sure the process of incentives, which I think is a huge portion in today's economic development picture, are possible. So I would come to you if we had a manufacturing opportunity or a commercial opportunity and would say to this board, hey, obviously I think you can do it in closed session under Michigan law, but I'm not 100% sure of that, obviously. But come to this board and say, hey, we want to put together an incentive package, or we want to put together a package for a particular company to come in, and I would obviously spearhead that effort. So I have a lot of experience in economic development, and so I'm very comfortable doing that.
Anything else, Jackie? Okay. Well, I've always thought the idea of a township manager was a fantastic idea, and that is why I ran for this position. So I'd like to make a motion. I move to hire Mr. Howard Fink as the next township manager for Northfield Township, pending contract negotiations, contract approval, and a background check. Contract negotiations are to be carried out for the board by current township manager William Wagner.
I'll second it.
Can I ask for a friendly amendment? I think the negotiations should be handled by our township attorney. That's more appropriate.
How about the review of the attorney? I'd like Bill to still be involved, knowing that he's been in the position and he has a little insight into it, but maybe we can add.
Well, if we're talking about a contract,
yeah,
then it needs to be put together by the township attorney anyways, so.
Right, so review of.
Just add the township attorney on there. I don't care if Bill
Yeah,
continues to be involved.
by current township manager and review of Paul Burns' office, right? Or township attorney?
I don't want just review. I think he should be part of the negotiations.
I don't see a problem with that.
I would second that one, yeah. I'm more comfortable with the attorney just doing the negotiations.
I mean, it's the way it stands is just add and, the township attorney.
Yeah, and just add and township attorney.
Right. Well, you have to agree to the.
I agree to adding to the last sentence of the motion to add the township attorney.
No, I
I'm
just
confused.
have one more question.
Okay.
I have a question, though.
Yeah.
The first part of it is that you're making the motion to hire Howard. I think, wasn't that motion already made by the previous board
No.
to hire?
You got to talk into the microphone.
Wasn't that motion made by the previous board to hire Howard Fink? So that's my question.
Can I? Mrs.
Yep.
Supervisor?
Yeah.
Madam Supervisor? If I may, Ms. Otto?
Yes.
Trustee Otto? I'd like to speak to that issue, because my attorney also did research on this issue. And I want to preface that by saying one of the reasons why I'm here in front of you tonight is because I insisted that this board make the decision. So that's the first thing. That's just, was my position. That's
your
right.
board.
That's
Okay.
right. That was my position that happened. One is, and it's not to say that the previous board's decision and action wasn't great. I appreciate all their support. I appreciate, the process that they started, and I can understand that. But from a professional standpoint, I had, almost ethics is the wrong word, but almost a gut reaction that this board should be the board that makes the decision on hiring me, because this is the board that I would be working with. And so it should be this board's decision. From a legal perspective, the previous board cannot enter into those negotiations. And so this board would have to both vote on that and also to enter into the contract.
Right, I understand that. I think for what I am trying to do is to get a process of how it was done.
Sure, sorry.
So I'm questioning that the previous board approved going forward. We can make the motion that we stand by that approval and go forward. That's what I was trying to make the statement of. And I was questioning that since the previous board agreed to it, that we're just already making a motion on top of a motion that was already made. So my thought is that we just stand by that motion and move forward.
So it'll be two separate motions.
Right.
Well, I personally prefer to go with this motion because it's more specific and it adds the township attorney. Where previously the bill was directed to begin negotiations.
Okay. Well, I'm not saying anything about the last half of the motion. It was just the first half of when she said that we will move forward to hire, and I don't have it in front of me, so I don't.
I moved to hire.
To hire. I think that motion was already made. What I was trying to say is that in the previous board is that we will stand firm in that hiring.
And amend it to include the attorney.
And amend it by adding
So it's
the second
essentially
half.
the same.
Very confusing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You know, my understanding was they was put on hold because, they wanted, that the new board would make this decision.
But there was no motion to put it on hold.
I don't think there was a motion to go forward either. I believe that Mr. Wagner was just directed to start negotiations. I don't specifically remember a motion. Maybe Sam would know, but
Is there a problem with making the motion
No.
the way? Okay.
Okay, so if nobody has a problem, then I'll just stick with the way it is.
Can you just reread it again, the whole thing?
I move to hire Mr. Howard Fink as the next township manager for Northfield Township, pending contract negotiations, contract approval, and a background check. Contract negotiations are to be carried out for the board by current township manager William Wagner and the offices of Paul Burns, the township attorney.
Just for clarification, then, Mr. Wagner and the attorney will do the negotiations together?
They'll work together on doing it.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Second.
yeah, Kathy did it.
Good.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Is there a budget for the background check? Or can we set a budget for a background check? I mean, because you can go a long ways with performing a background check.
Do you have a suggestion, Bill?
I'm sorry, Tracy, what was that?
I just asked if he had a suggestion.
Yeah,
Oh,
any
okay.
idea of
I'm
cost?
I'm suspecting he's better versed in background checks than any one of us are.
What's the usual cost on something like this, Bill?
Well, and I discussed this a little bit. I would guess we would set it at $1,500 for a professional background check.
That would be a separate motion, I
That
believe?
would be a
Yes,
separate motion.
yes.
Okay. So on to the first motion. We have a second. I'd like to take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any of those that oppose? The motion passes.
Thank
you, Howard.
Thank you. Looking forward to working with you.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Yes, thank you. Have a safe drive home. So, with that being said, we do have two motions to put into place, and that would be the budget, and I'm not sure how to do such a motion for a budget request. Shelley, could you help me out with there?
What are you trying to accomplish?
Well, we just discussed that we should have a budget of $1,500 to cap the background check on.
I would guess that not, at this moment, not knowing exactly where that money will come from, we may have to amend the budget, which would be to add this amount of money to a line item.
Okay.
And when that happens, it just gets moved out of what we call the fund balance.
Okay.
Which is the savings, I guess.
I'm not even sure we need a motion
I don't think we
on
need it now.
I
Okay.
just, as long as we're all with
Know how much we
about
can
that
spend,
ballpark, my authority with the spending would, that would fall under that. And I just wanted to make sure we all had an idea that I would be spending money to do a background check. That's
Okay.
really what it was all about.
Thank you. So another motion that needs to be addressed here is, obviously, contract negotiations with Howard Fink. Bill Wagner's term is to expire at the end of this year. I'd like to make a motion to keep him on board until everything can be settled and Howard is on board with us. So I move to extend William Wagner, and I'd like to make a motion to extend William Wagner as Northfield Township interim township manager until the new township manager's contract is approved by the board.
Do we have a target date or anything?
Tomorrow? No.
No.
I'll second it.
Are you on board with that?
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask him.
Well, I'm okay, but I think I'd like to see some sort of an expiration date in the case that there isn't an agreement.
Would a 30-day period be sufficient to get all this done?
Let's call it
At the
a
end of
60-day,
60.
unless we can get the agreement done sooner, and
Okay.
and then
Well, either 60 days or. At the.
correct, yes.
Time of the agreement.
Because usually when you do a contract like that, they have a 30-day period in which to review it, sign it, and get back. Sometimes sooner. So you may want to, 60 days would probably be appropriate.
That's what I thought.
60 days from this date or 60 days from when you were supposed to go back, which was January 1st?
Say March. Just put March 1st.
March 1st.
I'll support that motion.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excuse
Those who
me,
oppose?
You had a motion that was supported by Braun,
Right. That was,
and it was not voted.
And then there was
Yeah, we
discussion.
didn't vote, we didn't take a roll call.
Actually, yes, it's amended because we added the March 1st deadline of, well, which
Okay.
one are you, the one that we were currently working on was just to extend Bill Wagner's.
Yeah,
she's
the
talking-
motion was to
hiring.
extend his contract as interim township manager until the new township manager's contract is approved by the board.
and that was approved by,
That was
Braun.
seconded,
Right.
then there was
Supported by Braun.
Or seconded by
discussion,
Braun.
and
There was
then
no
I would
voting.
say amended.
did you add the March
So-
1st date?
So you wanted that to be an amended motion,
Correct.
and Braun agreed to that? Is that what you're implying?
I think someone else said.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that his contract would be
That's all right.
extended until, to no later than March 31st? Is that
March
what-
1st.
March 1st.
March 1st.
To no later than March 1st. Is that what you're saying? I just
Yeah.
wanna
Yes.
clarify. Okay. Okay.
Okay, so we did have a
Now we
vote
can
on
vote.
that, correct?
No,
Or now we can?
We didn't vote.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. On to the next item, number 4, Janet Chick, the consider of rehire of Dennis Gabriel as labor attorney.
Yes, I brought this up again as a consideration for the board. Contract talks are coming up for the fire department in a couple of months, and it wasn't made clear why we were actually letting Mr. Gabriel go, and I'm not sure that he actually has been terminated. Has that communication been made to him?
Yes, I
Okay.
had a conversation that the
Okay.
board had voted to no longer
So,
use his services.
all
But
right, so-
let me, if I can correct, fire department negotiations aren't getting ready to start. We've been in negotiations and we're kind of on a standstill hold, waiting for a labor attorney.
Okay, so that was my thought, is Mr. Gabriel knows the township, he knows the people involved, he knows he's done this before, he's been with the community for a few years, that in order to get the contract talks moving along to bring him back in. There wasn't any real clarification on why Mr. Gabriel was let go, so it's, and I know Mr. Wagner is comfortable with him as the attorney, so I just thought it would be good to consider. The board would be interested in bringing him back on. I'd like to make a motion to rehire Dennis Gabriel as our labor attorney effective today.
Support.
So now we can discuss it. And my question is, have we asked our general counsel for a recommendation for a labor attorney that could be a replacement?
I've known Dennis a long time. I have the confidence in him. Really, his relationship is primarily with Bill because Bill and Dennis negotiate the labor contracts, and so as I understand it from Mr. Wagner, that it's the labor negotiations have gone fine over many years now, and that he reached a number of deals. But I have no issue with Dennis.
Do you have anything else, Kathy?
No, I'm on.
Kelly? Jackie?
No, I'm fine.
Tracy, do you have anything? My thoughts on it, just, being new to all of this, I'd like to do a little more research and find out what the problem was with that current attorney, and why he was let go or put on hold, wherever the status of him is. Possibly get bids on it, an interview process, get some recommendations. I don't feel knowledgeable enough to make a decision on that this evening.
I think, though, that the problem is that we're in the middle of a negotiations already with a union contract. So what that does is what you've now explained is you put a 30 to 60 day approach to an issue, which has now created another issue for the township unions.
Just even talking to the gentleman, I might find out that, he is a good attorney, and that there is no, 30, 60-day delay of, interview process with other attorneys or anything like that. I just have no knowledge of this man, so I don't feel comfortable making a decision on a vote for myself.
And we went to the department, had the people that deal with him, and they were very comfortable with him as an attorney.
I've been, Wayne Dockett has some concerns and questions that he has voiced before, and I need to maybe talk with him, maybe on a phone call or when he gets back in town, to find out what was some of the dissatisfaction. I mean, so that's all I'm saying. I don't know enough to even, cast a floor vote tonight.
Can we take a vote?
We have a motion, so.
Yep.
Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Those who oppose?
No.
No.
For
Motion passes 4-2. Next item, number 5, Shelley, consider resolution of support for the non-motorized pathway.
Actually, I'll swing it to Bill. He gave it to me.
So, you have this resolution. At some point, we need to address the resolution, and this resolution, if approved, will go along with the grant application for Phase 3 of the non-motorized path. But, and we can do this in whatever order you'd like. But at some point, just to give you a little history, and hopefully you've all had a chance to review Mr. Burns' office communication on kind of the history of that. Either 2 board meetings ago or so, Mr. Burns' office was directed to terminate contract with, an incomplete contract with Boss Engineering for the Phase 2 portion of the path. And then along with that, I was directed to receive RFQs for moving the path to the north side of Barker Road. Since then, in meeting with Boss Engineering and as it related to Mr. Burns and terminating that contract, and meeting with another engineering company to create an RFQ, more questions were answered as it related to why the path was put on the south side, and then more questions came up as to can we even put the path on the north side, recommending a study be done to put the path on the north side. We're not even sure the county roads will let us because we'll be crossing Barker Road with a path. We're not sure MDOT will let us. And so since then, in all the meetings, and understand because you're a new board, that this was kind of thrown at me in the middle of the whole deal, so I'm still learning a lot of history of what's gone on here. What we have found out is that there were public meetings for the path before even Phase 1 was started. There was discussion as to putting the path on the north side or the south side. It was decided, and I guess the main and the big reason that the south side was chosen was destinations. And there were 4 destinations, the 4 being the elementary school, the library, the 75 Barker Road. At that time, you'll remember, was being discussed as a community center, and Polly's Market and that side of Main Street. So my understanding is that that was the main reason and not traffic counts as had been previously discussed. There's some concerns about putting the path on the north side because, again, we'll be crossing Barker Road. And I know the argument, and it was a good question and a good argument, that maybe we don't want to cross these entrance and exit ramps, and that made complete sense to me. But then there was the discussion that there would be actual less traffic crossing those entrance and exit ramps than crossing Barker Road itself. So, and I'm not here to push one or the other, but if we're going to decide to put the path on the north side, and we're not even sure that we can do that, we probably should do a study. That study would cost probably $3,000 to $5,000 to determine the feasibility of putting that over there. Now, in your communication, and Paul, am I okay discussing some of that communication that you, that actually Brad put together? I'm talking about the portion of the contract that hasn't been fulfilled with Boss. So we have a $34,000 contract with Boss Engineering that hasn't been completed. We've paid approximately, I believe, about $30,000 of that contract out. The only portion left is the staking and supervising of Phase 2B of the path. So there's $4,000 that we would probably be obligated to pay, and then there's the potential additional potential liabilities for the Phase 2 portion of the contract, and you read that in your letter. So I guess we kind of need to decide, do we want to continue to put the path on the north side? Do we want to keep it where we're at with the path on the south side? And do we want to approve a resolution to go along with a grant request for Phase 3? And Phase 3 will be the portion that puts the two, Phase 1 and Phase 2 together. Now, one other thing that I think, the only other thing I haven't mentioned is part of the big issue with the Phase 2B were 2 easements that we thought we were going to need to complete that. After speaking with Boss Engineering, they believe that we can still complete Phase 2B on the south side of Barker without either one of those easements. It wasn't what they desired. It wasn't the best option, but it can be done without easements. One was going to be a construction easement for just a temporary during construction, and the other was going to be an easement for the bridge. And they've gotten some new information as to foundation and foundations for the bridge, correct, Mike? That a different way to do it that would not require an easement from Mr. Spiegelberg's property. So that would leave us with only requiring us to get the MDOT permit to cross the railroad and to cross underneath US 23. And I guess the only other thing I have to add before you guys start discussion is Phase 2A originally was proposed to go over the railroad, and it stopped short of the railroad, and that's because that permit over the railroad is actually required through MDOT, and we have not received that. That's why it stopped. So we now have a bill for the construction of 2A, which was originally proposed at $86,000, and I believe right now we're going to owe about $77,000. So that portion that is short will be added on to the Phase 2B portion of the contract. Mike, did I miss anything? Okay.
So 9,000 of it would be added on.
Well, 9,000 will come off of the current 2A and be added to the 2B. Now, again, I'm not here. I'll do whatever you direct me to do, whether you want me to pursue the path on the north side or whether you want me to continue with the path as originally proposed on the south side. That's your decision.
Shelley?
I'm assuming that this path was not put just, it wasn't willy-nilly, that there was a lot of studying and result, surveys or whatever the case was before they decided which side of the road to put it on. It was made to sound like that it was a really bad mistake to do that, and but again, the engineering firm put a lot of work into that. I personally prefer to leave it just where it is. Otherwise, we're spending another $5,000 or $6,000 of our own money. I don't even believe we'd be able to use some of the grant money to do that, to find out that, we're crossing the road. So we cross the road at the railroad tracks, go down the north side, and then have to cross back over when you get down by the subdivision. It just doesn't make sense to me. So personally, I'm in support of continuing this path where it is, as well as finishing it with Phase 3.
I like the idea of it being on the north side of the road, so no one does have to get near those entrance ramps to the expressway, but it appears to me that we're so far into this, with the path already there near the school, now down by Polly's, that we should just probably continue forward with it instead of, crossing back and forth over Barker Road. I know there's the safety concerns about the expressway, but crossing Barker Road twice is a concern for me too, so.
I may add one other thing. No matter which side we put it on, north or south, when we come to the Phase 3, we will have easement concerns on both sides. So before we bring a contract for you to approve, we will have those easements in place, or at least we'll be looking for direction on easements. So.
Well,
I just want to...
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Kathy. Go ahead.
I have a question about the MDOT crossing the railroad track. Just curious about that, because
why is it their responsibility?
Are there going to be little gates there, or what do you do to cross there?
No, I don't believe there's any gates planned. It's just, Mike, do you want to?
Look both ways?
Well, that's the ramp up to it. And
Mike, why don't you come up and introduce yourself so they know who you are. This is Mike Boss. He is the engineer for the...
Yes, I'm Mike Boss from Boss Engineering, and MDOT actually is involved in any of the transportation crossings that we have. So they have to approve the crossing underneath the overpass if we go into the walkway. And they also have to approve the railroad crossing. And the crossing itself is similar to what the road crossing is. It's a paved crossing with pavement markings for pedestrians and signage, but there's no gates that fall.
Okay.
Now I know over on 6 Mile, where Shadowwood Farm subdivision is at, there is an actual golf course pathway that goes over the railroad track, and it would probably look almost identical to that as well, because it's almost like a large walkway.
It is. It's similar to a roadway, only it's a...
It's not as hard to get an approval for that as it would for cars crossing, in other words.
MDOT has already approved
Okay.
all of our crossings, and so has Washington County Road Commission, where they have concerns. It was only at the 11th hour, if you will, that the guy from MDOT who was issuing the permit emailed us and said, we found out we have to submit this to the Federal Highway Administration for their approval. So he said, sorry, but we're going to send it up there. They did send it. We got some comments back from them. We can address those if and when you decide to move forward. But it's really more, that part of it's not critical. MDOT's already reviewed everything and given us all their input.
Thank you. Thank you.
While you're up there, what type of study was performed to determine what side of the road was best suited?
Well, initially, what we did is we got a meeting of all the involved parties. So we had the MDOT people down, their traffic people, the railroad people. We had Washington County Road Commission involved in that. We actually had, and forgive me, I don't know who the township was here, but we sat and we talked about why it should be on one side or the other, what would be the traffic impacts for various scenarios. And I personally wasn't involved, so I can't tell you who said what on it, but I know the consensus was, especially from the administration with MDOT people and Washington County Road, the south side would be their preferred side, simply because the crossings, if you will, and I know there's a concern with the entrance and the exit to the expressway ramps, but those are stop streets. So everybody that comes to those intersections have to, if they're coming off the expressway or coming off Jennings, has to stop. Barker Road is not a stop street, that's a through street. So any crossings on Barker Road are sort of mid-block type crossings where you're going to have through traffic having to stop for pedestrians. And that's not a real good, an ideal situation. But in terms of the decision, we brought all that back and actually presented it to the township board and said, here's what we're proposing and here's why we're proposing it. And it was the township board that made the decision to move forward with the project on the south side of the road.
Okay, so falling short of having an actual report analysis or a traffic analysis, the decision was based on expert opinion? Okay.
Does anyone have anything else? And maybe, Shelley, you could help me along with this. I'm not sure what we, do we, are we, what are we approving this resolution that it was provided in the board packet? Or does a motion need to be made?
There may be two things. I mean, one of the things we need to do is to have Boss continue, correct?
Yeah, I would say if that's the board's desire, a motion for them to continue and for the project to continue on the south side, or if that's not the desire, then direct a study and then separately approve this resolution, if that's the desire.
So there should be 3, or the 2 can be made into 1?
I think you can probably make the 2 into 1.
Okay.
Well, this resolution.
Well, no, I mean.
It has to stand on its own.
Has to stand on its own.
But
Okay.
the other, the continuing of Boss and the keeping it on the south side can be one. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Does it matter which one goes first?
Not.
Okay. I make a motion to adopt the resolution as presented for the non-motorized path.
Support.
And yes, second.
Janet, say louder.
Oh, second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. The next motion, I move to agree to keep Boss Engineering on the
Phase 2 portion of the
Phase 2
contract.
portion of the contract of the non-motorized path.
Yep.
Support.
Thank you. Do I need a second, or do I just support? Okay.
Janet did.
That was it.
Okay. Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes.
So it's understood that the path will continue at this point to be on the south side?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, there also has to be a, does there also have to be a motion to, for the resolution for phase 3?
That's the first one that
just did that.
Marilyn
Okay.
did.
Did that
Does
need
that
to be
need
a
a
roll
roll
call for a
vote?
Did
resolution?
that need a roll call?
Yeah. Yes, it does.
Okay.
So we're backing up to the resolution, and I'm going to do a roll call.
Yes.
Okay.
That's why I missed it.
Chick.
Yes.
Braun.
Yes.
Engstrom.
Yes.
Manning, yes. Otto.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Okay. I think we're now moving on to item number 6. And let's consider the meeting schedule for 2013. Shelley?
All right. Well, I presented the schedule based on one meeting a month, except for May and June, which we had originally doubled up for because it's the budget time. So leading into budget, sometimes we need the 2 meetings to go, over do the budgets for the. So, having said that, we either go with it as it is, or I don't know if you want to not do 2 in May and June. What's your thoughts?
Well, one of my thoughts is because we are a new board, and that we have a lot of things that might be going on the first couple of months because of just getting accustomed to our role, and also the negotiations with Howard Fink, that we would probably add 2 meetings in January and February.
Okay? Does that sound good with everyone?
Yep.
So that would be the 8th and the 22nd of January, and the 12th and 26th of February.
I'm comfortable with May and June.
Okay?
Yeah.
And obviously, if there's no agenda items, then there is no meeting on
Right,
the
right,
scheduled
right.
date, correct?
Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
Would you like to make
Okay.
a motion? or-
I will make a motion to approve the Northfield Township meeting dates for 2013 as amended.
I support.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes.
Who was the support?
January 22nd.
Yeah, no.
What?
Jackie.
Oh,
Jackie.
you'll get it.
Jackie, I support it.
Thanks.
That's all right.
We do it all the time at the planning
Okay.
commission meetings.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Who said what?
Okay, let me see. We're on to number 7, the consider of the holiday schedule for 2013.
It really doesn't need any explanation. I do like to point out that we kind of use Columbus Day. Just a little background, the holiday schedule, we've just kind of adopted the Washtenaw County holiday schedule. I mean, they did it long time ago. Columbus Day, quite a while ago, the board decided kind of just to leave it as a floating kind of thing. So it ends up being I put it in what I think is the best place for it. And I usually make a note of it at the bottom of where I put it and why. So you'll always see that at the bottom. So having said that, I'll make a motion to approve the Northfield Township 2013 holidays as presented.
Support.
There is a motion on the table from Manning.
Chick.
Oh, wait. You did.
Yep. I
Yeah,
made the
from
motion.
Manning.
Chick supported.
Chick supported. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Okay, now we are jumping up
Now
to
we're-
what was previously one,
Oh,
the flip-flop of 1 to 8.
okay.
And that would be the consider reinstating Robert's Rules as guidelines. Otto?
Yes, I wanted to have a discussion on reinstating the Roberts Rules as a guideline. I did some research. While there are many townships and many associations that do use Robert Rules, there are some that do a, what they call a, they use a portion of Robert's Rules or revised Robert Rules. So I wanted to have a discussion because I feel that we need to have some type of guidance, some type of a semblance to how we conduct ourselves, how we present the meetings, and the expectation of what the public expects from us in some type of guidance. So. And I wasn't really, I did put together a small motion. I'll give you a copy because I only have a couple. But I did show that in our township, there is, some of the township do have policies, so they have a long list of what the board has to present or how they present a meeting. And I wanted to get away from that, so we don't incorporate a policy and get bogged down with the functions, so we can just move forward with the work really that's at hand. So I feel that Robert's Rules is already there for us. We can either do it as a revised, or we could accept them as a whole. Okay. So the business of the board shall be conducted in accordance with Robert's Rules of Order, revised insofar as such rules are not in conflict with these rules and the statutes of the state of Michigan.
Support. Does anyone have any comments? Well, I do. Sorry. Oh, were you going?
No, go ahead.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I do. Robert Rules of Orders, I mean, there's a book, and it looks very thick, but there's only just a few things in there that you typically use at most meetings, and I like it because it does embody a code of ethics on conduct, and I think we don't need a policy if you're following Robert Rules of Order.
Kathy, did you have anything?
I just think that the MTA says very few township boards. I mean, loosely we use Robert's Rules, but I guess the policy is a little vague to me. I'm not sure which parts, because you could pull parts out of there selectively. There's even things like the supervisor gets to set the time the meeting adjourns in the beginning. So, I mean, it's very detailed. Well, that's okay, as long as the policy is very specific about which ones we're going to follow. When you say the revised, I don't know what the revised are. I haven't really had a chance to look at that. It wasn't presented.
Well, I mean, revised is, I'm not going to nitpick that. Trust me, I don't want to be here until 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning either. So what I was looking at is the Robert's Rules, just to give us some guidance of ethics and how the meeting should be conducted.
I'd like to see the policy written out as to which specific parts of Robert Rules you mean.
Either your microphone isn't on or you're
No,
not
it's on.
into
I
it,
can't.
so
Because
I
I'm
can't
not
hear, I don't
loud
think
enough.
anybody at home can.
I'd just like to see the policy spelled out more specifically, that's all. Because I do feel we follow Robert's Rules right now, according to the MTA and what they say about generally what township boards do. Robert's Rules, if you know, they are parliamentary, right?
Yes, but according to probably, 3-4 months past, the previous board made the motion not to follow Robert's Rules, so that's why I brought it into effect. So either we follow Robert's Rules we follow it revised, or I can take the revised out and just say that we follow Robert's rules, insofar that the rules do not conflict with these rules and the statutes of the state of Michigan.
I don't know them, so I'm afraid I'll be violating them. I mean, I don't, who's going to, by what date do we have? Yeah. but-
We actually, we supply
Like I said, they're
everybody with a book.
parliamentary.
So if we're going to reinstate them, you'll get a book.
Well, personally, I don't feel comfortable reinstating them when my training officially, it does not start till next week through the MTA. So I find it hard to difficult to make a decision on this. The little I do know about Robert's rules, my gut feeling is that I would like to see a revised part of your motion to include what we're going to use and what we're not going to use of it. I think there's a lot of formality already that we're trying to get used to and everything, and since we did already add the extra board meetings, that maybe we could do a little research. Can I get to this MTA training first? Maybe bring it up at the next meeting? Those are just some of my thoughts.
Do the rest of our boards and commissions follow Robert's rules? I know the Planning Commission does.
Yes.
Yes.
Simple fact, yeah.
Janet, Planning Commission does in the sense that when we were on it, the whole time I was on it, we never had any real strong conflictual problems. We never had any procedural issues. I would like to at least take a look at, I haven't read Robert's rules in a long time, and I'd like to see what version we'd be talking about adopting. And I understand that there's a couple of competing things going on, and everybody's kind of right. So in the one sense, there's this desire to say, hey, listen, we have to have something in place to address conflicts that we haven't even dealt with yet. And I'm sympathetic to the idea of, hey, listen, let's get out in front of a potential problem before it becomes a potential problem. So, part of me wants to have something in place to fall back on if we do find ourselves, having some procedural issues with one another. But I would be in favor of tabling it or postponing it, or whatever the nomenclature is, to maybe a meeting in January, so that we can decide whether we really want to look at the entire Robert's Rules, whether we want to look at some truncated version of it, or whether we want to put together a written policy of our own that governs what's going to happen if we start to disagree in an improper fashion.
Okay. I know that Plymouth Township they made a motion to adopt a revised Robert's Rules of Order. And so I would even like to see what their adoption would be, as far as instead of trying to rewrite or go through that entire book and pick and choose which ones would work and which ones wouldn't work.
That sounds great. Why reinvent anything? If there's a township that is having some success with some revised version of it, then let's learn from that, and yeah,
Okay.
let's take a look at it.
All right. Okay. I will withdraw the motion. And could I ask, Bill, do you know anybody in Plymouth Township?
Are you looking for what they're using to run their meetings?
Right.
I can find that out.
Okay.
Yep, I'll find that out.
Now, do I have to have a motion for that, or? Okay.
I don't think so.
If you can find out, I
Do you wanna,
appreciate it.
Have it tabled to a specific meeting? The first January or something? Then
Why
can
don't
make
we
a motion
table,
on that.
why don't we table it to I'm going to do the second meeting in January. I'll give you enough time
Yeah, thank you.
to do that.
Oh, it should, whatever you
Yeah,
whatever
well,
you want.
I'm being cognizant of the holidays,
122.
so.
Okay.
Table to 122.
By the second meeting?
Yeah, so it would be January 22nd.
Okay.
So I make the motion to table the decision on Robert's Rules of Order to the January 22nd board meeting.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Lisa, did you get the support?
That was you.
Okay, I realized I didn't have my mic on, so I was,
That's fine.
try to remember that.
Motion passes? Oh, okay. We're good on this one, right? Okay. On to number 9, consider civic event permit for the Michigan Pond Hockey. Shelley?
I know Bill has in his, he's the primary finder of things that still need to be done, so I'll let him address what he has in his township.
So
in his
sometimes when we get these permits, and quite often, and especially the pond hockey, we have a permit before you, but you don't have all the requirements of the permit fulfilled, and that's not unusual because some of these things can't be done until right before. And I'm not sure if you had a chance again to read my manager's report on it. There's a list of items. I met with Sam last week, and he's obviously here to answer any questions that you might have. And so he has that list of things that need to be finished before it can be, before the event can happen. So you can do one of two things, and I think Mr. Iaquino would like it approved tonight if possible. I'm not sure how the board wants to handle that. Basically, if you do that, you would approve it contingent on these other requirements that I listed taking place. But on the other hand, you do have at least one board meeting before this event takes place where the permit could be approved at that meeting also. But I would even guess then still one or two of these items still would be outstanding. So it's up to the board. I don't know if you have any questions for me or Sam. This is how many years, Sam? The sixth? So we learn a little bit every year. It's a pretty cool event if you haven't been out there. And I mean, to me, the coolest part was when they had it at night and they had all the lights and all the ice rinks and all the hockey players out there. That was pretty neat. We get a lot of people in town for it. Which can cause issues, which, and I mentioned in here where we do have a complaint from one of the businesses there of traffic being able to get into his business. And so we're going to try very hard to address that and make sure that doesn't happen. I've mentioned that to Sam already. We've come up with a different idea on how to take care of parking on the Kales property and address that, and then maybe some no parking signs along the road back to Captain Joe's there. So other than that, again, we get a little bit better at it every time. So it's up to the board whether they want to approve it contingent on those issues or wait until January.
In your report, Bill, you said that there was one business that had an issue.
Yeah.
A while back. Who was that?
You know, I'd rather not say because I don't know whether they
okay.
want to be,
All right.
but I stay in contact with them.
Okay.
And,
just so that we're cognizant of it?
Absolutely,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't have a question on approving, but I do have a question for Sam. I like where the proceeds go. I'm sorry, Sam. Come on up. Okay, I like the fund where the proceeds go to. Is this, when you say the families that are under financial hardship can apply for a scholarship, is it local people that apply, or is it this fund national or statewide?
No.
Is it on? Okay. It would be regional. As an example, Whitmore Lake is deeply involved, and so a lot of the, as an example, even though the event didn't happen last year, we've helped 20 families in the pay-to-play participation through the Whitmore Lake High School athletic program. Even though the event didn't happen, we still had enough proceeds, even though we had to bank, and 99% of the funds are still banked. but we helped those families. And then we are helping, we have other communities that are involved, South Lyon, Pinckney, Brighton. Those communities are deeply involved in the volunteer basis as well. So we are helping the communities that help through the volunteer basis. They will be receiving, the scholarships in that basis. Like example, Fowlerville is also actively involved too. So, again, it's a regional event that takes place.
I'll make a motion to approve the civic event permit for pond hockey, for the Michigan Pond Hockey, contingent upon the completion of the items mentioned in William Wagner's report.
Manager's report.
Manager's report. Support. Those in favor?
A little bit of, just a question.
Oh, yeah, sure, I'm sorry, Terry.
Sam, can you, I just like watching you walk back and forth. Do you know what's still outstanding? Is there any problems with any of it?
Bill and I have had discussions, and if I haven't seen a copy of his report, but if it's all in line, Bill, with what you and I have discussed.
Yeah, it was right down that list.
Okay, then yeah, it's not a problem. And again, it's, as an example, I know part of it was the signed approval from the people that we do parking. I've already gotten one back. Insurance certificates, I know, is another. I already have those in hand.
Great.
So what I usually wait and do is go through Bill's checklist after it's approved this evening, and then give him a complete packet prior to the event.
Cool. Thank you.
Sam?
Yes.
Just a courtesy for next year.
Sure.
Could you put that regional in when you fill out this for next year? I know
Sure.
that we have it as a note, but I know that every year they're going to start, there's going to be people that are going to look at that.
Sure.
And if we have it as regional, there's no problem with it.
No problem.
Okay, thank you.
Let's hope there's ice this year.
Yes.
Okay, those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. On to 9A, which was the agenda item that was added for Tracy Thomas's resignation from the Planning Commission.
Right. Just to let the Board of Trustees know, I must have misunderstood. I sent Marlene Shockley my resignation, and she accepted it. I wasn't aware that I had to do it in front of the board, so I'm resigning now in front of the board and hope that you'll accept it.
Great. I guess, do we make a motion to accept his resignation? Okay. I will make a motion to accept Tracy Thomas's resignation from the Planning Commission.
I'll second it.
We have a motion on the table, seconded by Braun. May,
Can we change it to be a verbal, so people know that
a verbal resignation from Tracy Thomas for the resignation on the Planning Commission. Did you get that, or you want me to start all over?
Not the trustee.
Okay, good. Okay, so do we have a second? Braun seconds? So we need a vote. Those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. On to number 10, it's the consider appointments to the Planning Commission. In my research, I've found that it is the supervisors, one of their duties is to make this recommendation. So, let me see. So I guess for the Planning Commission, I'm going to make a motion, and I move to appoint Sam Iaquinto and Larry Roman to the Northfield Township Planning Commission for a 3-year term ending on December 31st, 2015. Yeah. Let's start over. I move to appoint Sam Iaquinto to the Northfield Township Planning Commission for a 3-year term ending December 31st, 2015.
I'll second that.
Those in favor?
Discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry, discussion. Does anyone have anything to say?
Do we have other candidates?
We had a few candidates, yep. They were in the packet that Shelley provided, the
Okay.
board packet.
And none of those people that you just, do we have letters from? We don't have letters from either one of them.
I was contacted directly through them. Sam sent an email and a phone call, along with Larry Roman.
Prior to the board packet?
Yes, a phone call, yes. And
Okay.
then
we should
Sam
have had, we told people they had to put it in writing, and it should have been available for all of us to know who all the candidates were.
Which I provided to you.
I don't have anything from Roman or Iquinto.
And I did, just to share with everyone, I did meet with Marlene, this chairperson, and discussed recommendations and things like that. Yes, I received an email from, Sam Iquinto on Tuesday, November 27th. Possibly was that the attachment that, did you ever get those attachments open that I had sent you that you'd asked me to resend to you?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Because they came through, I told you I needed a word, it comes through as a .dat, which I could never been able to open on my computer, and I don't know what
I don't know what that is. Yes, I have letters from Sam and Larry. I'm sorry that they were not included. Shelley and I were having a little, technical difficulties, if you want to say, with some attachments. So I was contacted by both, and that is why I chose them. And after talking to Marlene, I feel because of their experience, and that is why I chose them.
There was no one else that applied? There was just 2 applicants?
Oh, no, there's more. It's in your...
There's 4 of them in your packet.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
We had... Randall Rush, Robert Erickson, Jeffrey Vega, and Athena Trenton.
Now, I know Sam was a prior, on the Planning Commission prior. Has Roe been on that?
Yes, he has, and he took a leave of absence.
Roman, yes.
I believe it was for family. I'm not. I
Sports
don't.
with his son.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so he has asked, that he'd
I
like to come back.
I don't think he took a leave of absence. I think his term expired, and
Okay.
he didn't want to renew. He had some,
Okay.
he had some issues, but I don't want to, I really don't think he put his hand up and said, I have to step down. I think he served his entire term.
Okay.
Isn't that your memory,
I
Janet?
think he did leave before the end of his term.
Did he?
Because the sports schedule conflicted with his planning commission schedule, yeah. It was
But
just for a couple
It wasn't,
months.
yeah, was it, okay.
If we do need clarification, I can check with on an email from Marlene, the chairperson. She did specify what those details were. So I'll make a motion to, any other discussion, I should say.
Could we also have those letters be included into the minutes?
The
The
letters
ones-
that were not included in the...
Right.
Yes, absolutely. I have them here tonight.
Okay. Are you saying you want the whole letter in the minutes? Or just available in the packet?
Just if the motion passes for both of those, I'd like their letters included into the minutes.
How do you do that? I mean, do you want their letters typed in somewhere?
No, just attach it. As an, like staple it to the back of it. That's what I mean.
Okay. I'm just trying to clarify. Why would you want just those 2 and not...
Not all of them, because I haven't seen those two.
Those 2?
That's why. I think we need to have something that shows something dated that they've...
Right. I can share with you right now if you want to take a look at it. If not, we
No,
can do it to the
I
minutes.
trust what
Okay.
you're saying, but I just think for record purposes, there needs to be something dated that they've contacted at a certain time, and that we have it dated, and that's part of the minutes. Because this has been disclosed to the public, the other 2 letters haven't.
True.
Okay, so we'll add these letters to the minutes. So back to the motion, I guess, is where we are then, which is I move to appoint Sam Iacquinto to the North.
Been seconded.
Okay,
Discussed.
so we're at a vote at this point on that, correct? Or unless anyone
I think
else?
so.
Okay. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye? Those opposed?
No.
Motion passes. Second motion, I would move to appoint Larry Roman to the Northfield Township Planning Commission for a 3-year term ending on December 31st, 2015. Do I have a, thank you. Any discussion?
Was that Braun for both?
That was
No,
not.
that was you.
Yeah, first time Braun.
Okay.
Any discussion? I'd like to vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Then those opposed? Motion passes. Then, I also need to appoint someone to take over the rest of Tracy Thomas's appointment, which went to December 31st, 2013.
Correct.
Correct. I will make a motion to appoint John Mablin to complete the remaining term of Tracy Thomas on the Northfield Township Planning Commission with an end date of December 31st, 2013.
Did John resign from the planning commission? He's already on the planning commission.
Yeah,
That's what I was just going to ask you.
his term is still in effect.
Is it?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Okay, that's what I thought.
He's doing a fine job, but I don't think he counts as two.
Yeah, you can't.
Double him, right? Clone him.
You can't clone him for 1 month, so I think you have to take his position when it expires at that time. Don't you?
Well, but
I don't know.
Tracy resigned today, so
But John doesn't expire to the end of the month. It
Right,
doesn't
so you're
matter.
just replacing
They're not
Tracy,
having
yeah.
another meeting anyways, are they? This month?
are they having another meeting? Do you know?
I'm not on it anymore, but yeah.
Right, your term technically expires at the end of the month.
No,
all.
I'm done because I got, well, technically, yes.
Right,
But-
because I did not receive a resignation letter. Or
I didn't need one because mine expired. Yeah.
Right, expires technically on them, okay. So, do we wait for the
I
next
don't think
meeting
you-
then, or do you want to put him
I
on?
don't think you can appoint
Somebody's
to replace John Malevin because he hasn't left.
Right.
You can fill
Well, we can-
Tracy's
well, we
spot.
could-
I think we can run without, for the, until the meeting in
Just let it go
January, we
till
can run with a
January.
six-member planning commission until John's term expires. And then
Okay.
you can we can reappoint him, but we can't appoint him when he's a sitting member. I'm just guessing.
Or do you want to do we appoint starting January 1st? Do you do stuff like that, like a date in the future, or just bring
They're
it?
still short right now because I'm gone and Tracy's gone, so there's 2 holes to fill right now.
And those were filled.
Right.
But you have to have a board member sitting on the planning commission, too.
Well, that's 7.
That's our next item,
Oh,
is
okay.
having the board reps
Yes.
appointed.
Okay.
I don't know how you want to handle with John. I would recommend, what do you think, Shelley?
You can do it now with an effective date.
Okay. All right, why don't we do that, just so
I
it's
mean,
taken care of?
As long
and-
as you don't have an issue for a meeting this month, making sure they'll have a quorum is where.
Right.
Right.
And, well, I'd rather just take care of it and
What would
just
it-
put
it would
an
be-
effective
it would-
date for January
It'd be
1st.
tomorrow.
Yeah, I think they canceled it, but I don't know for sure.
And there's not one,
Yeah.
there's not one near the holiday. They might be done for the year.
I was going to say, I think there's usually only one in December unless there's something really pressing, so I would say you're fine.
Is there one? There's one scheduled for the 19th?
Oh.
You could still do it effective January 1st. That's how I look at it.
Sure. Let's do that. I move to appoint John Mablin to complete the remaining term of Tracy Thomas on the Northfield Township Planning Commission with an end date of December 31st, 2013, with an effective date
There you
of
go.
January 1st, 2013.
Support.
Wow.
Any discussion? I'll call vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Let me see, then 10A, which was added to the agenda, was to appoint board reps for both the ZBA and the Planning Commission.
Are we taking volunteers?
Taking volunteers.
Planning Commission.
I know Tracy has expressed interest in being a board rep for the Planning Commission.
Janet, do you want to?
Yeah.
She just said.
Are you sure you want to? I don't want to, just because we're sitting, I don't want to preclude anybody else that might want to be, but if you want to, then it's yours.
Thank you.
As far as I'm concerned.
All right.
But that's subject to everybody else's say-so.
Between me and you, it's good,
All
yeah.
right.
I have no objections to Janet. Anyone else have any discussions on that? No? Okay. So we will make a move to appoint Janet Chick to be the board rep to the Planning Commission.
I'll second it.
Both appointments shall be until November 20th, 2016.
Right. Yeah, it's the term of the.
That's the term of the elected office, right?
Oh, I had written this up thinking that we would do it as, I've learned that we do individual motions.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry if it was wrong. So you want me to redo it? Okay, so just the appointment shall be until November 20th, 2016.
Second it.
Okay, any discussion? Call for the vote. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Our second thing that we need to handle is the board rep for the ZBA.
I would like to volunteer for the ZBA.
Okay. Are there any other volunteers? All right. Then I'd like to make a motion, I would like to move to appoint Jackie Otto to be the board rep to the ZBA Zoning Board of Appeals. Appointment shall be until November 20th, 2016.
Support.
Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Next item is number 11, consider appointment to the ZBA. I'd like to move to appoint Ken Dignan and Tim Anderson to the Zoning Board of Appeal for Northfield Township for a 3-year term ending on December 31st, 2015. Two separate things, yes. Okay. We'll get this right. Thanks for your patience. I move to appoint Ken Dignan to the Zoning Board of Appeal for Northfield Township for a 3-year term ending on December 31st, 2015.
Support.
Any discussion?
Did he also provide a letter?
A letter, yeah.
An email?
The email he immediately met with me, actually, after the night of being sworn in, to let me know of
Okay.
his intentions. So he was first in line, if you want.
Could we do the same as we did for the Planning Commission? Just attach it in,
Yeah. Which
like
ones we
staple
did?
it to the minutes?
Yeah.
So we have it as a public record?
Which ones did we have in here?
Because we do have one.
ZBA was Cassandra. I can let you know when I send it out.
Okay, thank you.
I know, I was tired when I got here.
Okay, yeah, I don't even have that myself, I'm sorry. But Ken is currently on the ZBA, and so we are at the second and the vote on this one. Did we vote on?
No, we're ready to vote.
No, we're ready.
Okay.
We're ready to vote.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Then I move to appoint Tim Anderson to the Zoning Board of Appeal for Northfield Township for a 3-year term ending on December 31st, 2015.
Support. Sorry.
No,
No problem.
I didn't have him as being up yet.
Yeah, someone, oh, God, I have talked to so many people over, since, well, being sworn in. The email that you had sent out, and maybe, Ken, can you clarify for us? The email you had sent out saying the one position as well as a board rep, and Ken was the current chair.
We tried to look back and see that. I mean, I know that
I have,
on the website it listed Tim and I both as being up this year.
Yeah,
Okay.
it did say it on the website.
Tim thought he was up.
that doesn't make it
Tim thought he was up as well.
true.
I know. Tim thought he was up as well.
Although, you know, what's that new commercial? If it's on the internet, it's true.
It's true, absolutely. So, there you go. But
Okay, I'll
we tried to
double
look
check.
through it, but yeah, I mean, if you've got something in your
I would
records.
hate to say that our township website is not showing transparency. I wouldn't want to advertise it.
So do we need to hold off on this motion until we can verify, or?
Why don't we just go ahead and do it? I will double check the, you know, when he was appointed.
Okay.
If we have to change something, I'll let you know.
Okay, great. Then do I need to redo the motion, or
Nope,
motion is
just
stands,
go.
and we have been seconded?
Yep.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes. Let me see, number 12, consider establishing a policy on appointing replacements for elected officials. Otto?
Yeah, two key points. We do have a Michigan elected law that does talk to the vacancy of the township offices, but the two things that it doesn't talk to is the notice of vacancy and the appointment of how the vacancies are to be voted on within the township meeting sessions. It does call that the vacancy has to be done within a 30-day notice.
Actually, I'm sorry, go ahead.
It does call that the motion, that the notice has to be given within a 30 days notice, but it does not call as to if the appointment has to be made within the same meeting. So what I was trying to approach this in a purposeful way is so that the board is accepting a resignation or somebody stepping down for whatever reason as outlined in the state election laws. And then somebody is appointed, but not it being within the same meeting. That there has to be a time period in place in which people can step up, or a notice can be disseminated to the public, and then a process is put in place as far as people step forward, or if somebody doesn't step forward, then appointment is made at that time. And it's given 30 days in which all that process has to be done.
I believe I had read something that was a 45-day process.
Yes, these are the rules.
Okay.
They limit you to how long you can take, which is 45 days. If you do not appoint a replacement within 45 days, then it goes to the state for an election, or the county, excuse me. It used to be the state. There is no rule as to whether someone can resign and someone else can be appointed in the same 5 minutes. Okay? I think what you're trying to get at is some kind of policy that's a township policy that would set up how we would deal with that kind of situation.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
Okay.
I want it to be some type of transparency. I don't want anybody second guessing the board as far as what we did and how we did it. And I think that having some type of process in place that shows that, yes, we accepted the resignation, and yes, a process is in place to showing that somebody's resigned, and we're accepting appointments for that.
And we did our due
And we did
diligence
our
to find
due-
one.
And we did our due diligence. If nobody is there, then, appointing somebody would be the next step before the 45 days. And I think that's why I kept it within the 30 days part. So it
No, you're
all
trying,
can be
I'm
done.
sorry, go ahead.
So it all can be done within 45 days.
If you're looking for a policy,
Mhm.
then I would be willing to put one together and bring it back to a future meeting, if that's what you're looking for.
That is probably what I am looking for.
Okay.
I would really like that too, since once again, you know, because the state and MTA policy already in place, I don't have that MTA training until next week, so.
No, I did supply everybody with notes on on that portion that comes out of the MTA ruling.
You're not going to run everything at that.
You're right. Something.
Something.
I mean, when you read it, there is some holes in it, and those were the 2 holes.
Okay.
I
hear what you're saying, so I.
It's unfortunate that Paul left.
Right.
Because it would have been nice to, and I didn't realize this was coming up. I mean, I knew it was coming up, but I would have stopped him from leaving. I'd like to get his input on, I know obviously we can't abrogate or change state law.
Right.
I think we can probably add to our own internal policy as
Exactly.
long as we don't step on the toes of the state. So if the state says it's got to be done within 45 days, and that's really the only thing that the state says, then I think we're free to enact a written policy
We are.
that says something along the lines of, it can't be done in the same meeting as the acceptance of the resignation. And I would certainly be in favor of that.
A policy obviously would work around the state law, which is.
Right.
It's not, you can, we can make it more restrictive than the state law.
Right.
So
Does the MTA have a suggestion?
there's probably something out there that has been done before. I don't usually recreate the wheel, you go look.
Okay.
But it would be easy anyways for me to put together because I know what she's talking about. I mean, I know what she's trying to get at.
Right.
so.
Right. And I know that I put a statement together so everybody could see what motion I was going to make, but I think at this time I don't want to make the motion. I wanted
Table.
really to discuss it more and to see if we can't come up with some type of policy.
Just for future, the easiest way, the best way to process is to actually have, if you want it to be a policy or a procedure, to actually have something like that put together. I mean, you'll learn that, you know, for over the, you know, by January at least.
So you would put a policy together, bring it to the board, talk about the policy,
Right.
and then you would make a motion on it?
Right. That's the best thing, because what you're doing is you're putting all your, what you're trying to accomplish on the paper. You know, we might, in a discussion, you know, come up with things that we don't, you know, that we want out, things we want in, you know, that kind of thing. It's always just easier rather than to sit here and to talk like this. Not that this is bad, but I'm just saying that,
It will
you
be
know,
a 2-3 meeting process.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, you can narrow it to possibly a one meeting thing, you know, to get it done. So, but again, I think that'll come with more comfortable, as you get more comfortable and learn things and such.
So could I make the motion to table this to the January 8th meeting?
You think we'll be able to
I
get
think
some?
the 22nd.
We got the holidays in there and.
Okay, so table it to January 22nd meeting.
Yeah.
To establish a policy on appointing replacements for elected officials.
Okay.
Sounds good. And our last
Does somebody
order.
need to second
Yeah,
that?
Oh,
we need to vote on that.
Oh, we need to, okay.
I'm sorry, was there a support?
Janet.
Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion passes. If it's, okay, number 13, review policy for appointments to township committees and/or commissions. I was told by Shelley that that's a correction, that it's Otto versus Chick on
Yes.
there? Okay.
So I just wanted to understand if there is a policy in place, other than what's outlined by the MTA or if there was a policy in place by the township itself.
No, there's not an official policy in writing. A lot of the things that happen here are because they've always been done that way and are not necessarily always put in writing. I mean, that means it's a policy, it's just not in writing. My understanding is that the supervisor suggests, the board accepts or not accepts.
So is it a statutory duty of the supervisor, or is it not?
I don't know if you would consider it a statutory duty. I know that I don't think it's a statutory duty, no. Now that I think about the duties.
I think, the little I could find on it was state law addresses it as a supervisor duty.
Okay, I knew there was,
If
there
it
had to be a reason
statutory is
that-
in there or not, I'm not,
I think it falls
It's a law?
under the planning commission
Okay.
laws, the DDA laws. I mean, the DDA is the same way.
I wasn't questioning so much as the supervisor bringing it forward. I guess that's not where I was going with this. I think I was going more for the process of appointing, having something in writing ahead of time, making sure that the board is aware of everybody who was, who seeked out that position, making sure that those who are appointed to the openings are qualified. I'm sure tonight that we did that process, but I just want to make sure that as future openings, as openings open up in the future, that we are cognizant of that.
That everyone has all of this.
Right.
So if you say you
requesters.
had like 5 people that were interested in an appointment, they all sent in letters, would part of that policy be at the board meeting to discuss those candidates before an appointment is suggested? Or is that getting?
I can just tell you what's happened in the past, which is that out of, say, 5 letters, the supervisor might say, I'm recommending so-and-so and so-and-so, that kind of thing. And then the board either votes yea or nay. I mean, if you
Right.
don't want
Right,
them,
you
you
still-
say
right.
no.
And we just keep
And
going
we go on
through.
to, yeah.
The next person or whoever the next recommendation would be.
It's up to the supervisor to recommend them.
Right.
Correct?
Right.
So she
And
could
that's
have
not what
5
I'm
and
questioning.
recommend 2. Oh.
That's not what I'm
You just
questioning.
want notice ahead of time of
just
who is
want-
in consideration, correct?
I just want it ahead of time of who was in consideration, so it's transparent
But
to
that's what we
the
did,
public.
isn't it?
Well, we had to go backdoor it by adding those
Well, that was a
letters
glitch,
to
though.
the.
Yeah,
It's just
I-
that- that
I
was a
understand
glitch. I
that,
think
but-
that
Last week, I,
intent is
just
to
put this
do
all
that,
together nicely
correct.
for Shelley, and there was
but
something
I
wrong.
think we have to be more cognizant of when these openings come in, that there is a letter, that we require a letter for the appointment, and that you can say that the letter goes to the supervisor and all board members. So at least.
I think it just states just to, well, we can do it internally, that it goes to all of us,
Right.
but I
Well,
think it states to the
It
supervisor.
does eventually go to everyone. It goes
Right.
in the board packet.
Right.
So the fact
I
that.
don't know, I just, the only reason why I brought it up is because I wanted to understand if there was a policy that the township had, or if there was something that we could give more, at least know to the public that we're doing a due diligence of looking at everybody that applied for those openings.
Because sometimes people want to know why one person was chosen over another. And if you've got 2 people with different qualities or better qualities, and we pass that person over, they want to know why.
But isn't it then just up to the supervisor to answer those questions? It really doesn't matter what I mean, no, I don't mean
Yeah,
disrespectfully.
no, I
I'm
know,
just
I
saying,
understand that, and you're correct.
If there's 5 and she just chooses, and that's it. I mean, she doesn't really have to say why.
Well, that would be a
She
conversation
could. It'd be
between.
nice if she did.
That'd be a conversation
Sure,
between.
yeah,
It'd be a conversation between the person that's questioning and the supervisor.
Right.
But I guess I'm just trying to figure out if we're all on the same page, because we did do
Right.
what
due
you're saying.
diligence.
We did do it.
The ones missing were just a glitch.
I mean, I didn't expect to have some show up that weren't in, because I actually asked Marilyn on Friday, I think.
Right, we
when you
were in office
I said,
together,
do I have all
making
of
sure
the...
we have all of them
the
together.
have you received any? I went, that I don't have. She said, no.
Do we want to continue to do it that way in the future? I'm not suggesting we did anything wrong or incorrect or stepped on anybody's toes or anything like that. In the future, do we want to consider expanding the effort, if you will? I mean, do we want to consider having the people come in and actually give presentations if you don't want to do that? And that's fine. I'm just throwing it out there as kind of a question as to whether we would want to do that in the future. And if the answer is no, then I can live, well, that's fine. It's not even worth discussing, though?
I'm open. I mean, of course, yeah, I mean, we all know that, yes. I mean, I make the suggestion, and it all has to be approved, but, I mean, I don't know how much further, I mean, like, do you want to put it as a policy that they come to the meeting to be interviewed, or?
Maybe.
I mean,
The reason I say no is because,
You don't think there's anything to be gained by a short interview?
well, what I don't think,
I do.
first of all, I like to get in here and get business done and get out.
I know,
Okay.
the meetings.
So that's
I'm-
always been very obvious.
I'm cognizant of that.
The second one,
Uh-huh.
the second thing is that when we get our packets on Friday, we have 4 days to process anything that we need to out of that packet. And a lot of people, if they feel the need, they contact the applicants, if they have questions about anything.
like
Some
do
of
their
them.
own due diligence?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly.
Sure, and that was available to us,
Right.
and
Some of them
did
provide
that.
a resume, like you've seen.
Right.
Some of them send an email, so I guess it's up to us whether we feel we need to,
So I guess the other thing is do we request that a letter and a resume be provided when there is an opening? That could be another one. If
People sent me
that's-
some, beautiful letters with, in a resume-type format, with their
Because somehow I want
credentials.
people to feel that if there's an opening, they want it for a reason and they're committed to it.
Absolutely. And Marlene, the chair of the planning commission, was, so gracious to, send a beautiful email with attachments that explain the whole process, why certain people should be considered, their background, their place, the environment they live in, country versus city. I mean, there was, a ton of information. I
Pretty good.
felt, that, the people that we did, approve, they were previous members or somewhat current, and I think everyone has said that the Planning Commission and the ZBA has been working very well. Everyone gets along. I thought that let's keep the continuity going is the reason I chose the people I did.
I'm not questioning that. I've served with Larry. He did a really good job on the planning commission. I've served with Sam on the planning commission. He's done a really good job on the planning commission. I'm comfortable with that. And I'm going to shut up in a second about this, but I'm going to think about whether or not there might be room for some small expansion of that.
Sure.
And if I think there is, then I'm going to bring it back in front, or Jackie might bring it back in front of everybody, and we'll take another look at it. Again, I'm not suggesting we did anything untoward, wrong, or even chose the wrong people tonight. I'm confident Larry will do a good job. I'm confident Sam will do a good job. Everything's good. But I do think that there's room for a little bit of change in how we might handle appointments going forward. I'm not ready to make any recommendations
I kind of
tonight.
like the idea.
And I don't want to meet until 2 o'clock in the morning either, but.
Right. And I don't want it to be this secretive little thing that I get these letters and, the mishap of overlooking one, or, did it get filed properly, so, yeah, on another day, come back to it, or?
I have a suggestion. If those people that are really interested in these appointments, or when they send in their letter, if they're asked to come to the meetings like Mr. Dignan did, so that we can ask them to come up, or if they'd like to come up and talk, at least give them the opportunity to do that. It's an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think we're good on that subject now, because we don't have any more appointments until maybe something comes up, or?
Right, this was just a discussion.
Okay. Well, anyone else have any other thoughts, comments? Okay, well, it's getting late. Let's move on to the next item. That's a second call to public. Is there anyone out there that would like to say anything?
Ken Dignan, 9210 Hillcrest. Thank you for the reappointment to the ZBA. Welcome, Jacqueline. We'll talk a little bit about we've been meeting an average of 2 times a year up until this year. This year, we've been a little busy, so.
About 2 years ago, I printed off the whole ZBA ordinance, and I found it the other day, and I thought, why did I even, there must have been a reason why I printed the whole thing off.
But, we've been busy, but that's because folks are improving things in the town. And I think Tracy's comments, as well as all of you, is well taken, that defining some guidelines for requesting to be appointed to a position is probably not a bad idea. Just so folks understand what they need to do and what they need to get to the supervisor to have distributed to you. That never hurts, manage expectations that way, and maybe that way folks know out there that may not be aware right now how they get appointed to a position. That's about it. So it's wonderful to see you all up here. It's not too late, so yeah, that's all right. No, best. It is. It is.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Oh.
See, now you're all relieved. There you go.
I'm like, darn, this is really going fast.
Anyway,
Okay.
Thanks a lot, and have a good evening.
Thank you.
I'm like, but poor Howard, he's sitting over there. He's like, he's got to get on the road to go home.
He's spending the night.
Mary Devlin, 9211 Brookside. Some meetings are short, some meetings are long, but however long it takes for you people to get business done that's on the agenda, whether it takes till 2 o'clock in the morning or not, don't rush through it just to get home to watch 11 o'clock news, okay? And one other thing, as far as the statutory duties of all of you are concerned, above and beyond your statutory duties, it's my understanding, that's why you have a township manager, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Board member comments? Anyone have anything? Well, I'd like to say thank you for a fantastic evening.
Can I just get a real quick clarification on and Shelley and I discussed this the other day. So we have a bill from the concrete construction company that did the path. Now that had already been approved, and so we were going to go ahead and pay that, the bill that they've given us. And the same thing with the underground storage tank. Those projects were approved for a certain amount, and both of them are either at or under that amount, so we're okay to pay that, correct? I mean, as far as everybody understands. I don't want to...
There's a record of it, yes.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Okay.
No more. I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, it was pretty good. 11.